Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Marshall Reddick. We are so glad you're here, and happy holidays to everybody. Our course today is how to buy investment property in 2023 and 2024. Marshall Reddick, we are a full service, one-stop shop company. We're a real estate brokerage. We're a property manager. We're a private money lender, and we're an investment fund manager. And we really make it possible for you to buy residential real estate in amazing areas across the United States. And our organization provides everything for you from A to Z, everything from your brokers to your managers to people that you need to repair your property or rehab your property. We have amazing lenders and CPAs, everyone at your disposal to help you create your financial freedom in real estate. So I just want to talk a little bit about myself and introduce myself to you. I have been with Marshall Reddick since 1996, and I started out as a student from Dr. Reddick when he was teaching all of the different club meetings and at the colleges, and I just accidentally stumbled upon his class back in 1996 on how to buy foreclosures for no money down at Santa Monica College, and that set off a passion in me to start investing in real estate. And at the time, I had just graduated Florida State University with 2 degrees, and I moved out to LA, and I was working as a temp in the music business. And to me, it seemed all but impossible to purchase even a home to live in, let alone an investment property. But sure enough, I learned, and I was able over the years to purchase 22 investment properties, and I still currently have 11 investment properties. And it was such an amazing experience that from 1996 to 2000, I was purchasing everything that I could while working in the music business. And even one year, I remember I purchased 7 properties. And then in 2000, Dr. Reddick asked me if I would be interested in leaving the music business and coming and working for him full time. So in 2000, I started working for Marshall Reddick, leading a women's investment club. I spoke at all his club events, which we had, I think, about 10 at the time. I taught all of the Southern California college classes for Marshall Reddick, which of course now we do live online events, as well as mentoring and advising and really supporting and helping people grow their financial freedom through real estate investment. And I'm so grateful to still be with Marshall Reddick today. There's a new generation going with Marshall Reddick, but all of our principles are still the same, and all of the people are still the same. Even as you see, Scott and Reed, I've known them since they've been like 21 and I think 19. I think I've known you since you were 19, Reed, and I've known Scott since he was 21. So we really, all of us, have grown with Marshall Reddick, and we continue on the legacy of Marshall Reddick. And I've been a realtor now for 24 years. I've sold over 500 properties. I continue to be an advisor for Marshall Reddick, an educator for Marshall Reddick, and I'm here anytime to help you. And I'm here helping present this course today. And my strong belief that anyone can purchase real estate. You just have to jump in and do it. And the number one thing to do is to start educating yourself. And education, which we offer free with Marshall Reddick, will lead you to be able to create your financial future. I have experience with builders and developers, investors. I project manage jobs. I grew up on job sites as my dad was an engineer and a builder. I have 2 college-age students, which at the time I had no children, you know, when I first started. And I did most of this all as a single mom, as a single parent. They're now 19 and 23 and in college. And I have 3 dogs. I am an avid, I rescue dogs, and I'm an avid volunteer for multiple organizations, including Dog Rescue. Let me turn the... Okay, so I'd love to introduce you to Scott Pastel. Like I said, I've known him since he is 21 years old, and he is one of the founders, along with Ross, who's not here today, but he's one of the founders, and he has started with Marshall Reddick while he was in college at 21 years old. And eventually in 2012, when Dr. Reddick was ready to retire, he and Ross purchased the company and continued on the legacy for Marshall Reddick. He has multitude of experience, and all of us talk the walk. So we all do exactly what you do. We all own property. We use the private mortgage fund. I have used the private mortgage fund to take money out of one property, refinance, and rehab another property. I'm currently doing a 1031 exchange. I sold my property in Hawaii and now am purchasing another property in Florida in one of our other markets. And I use the property management services as well. And I can tell you, Scott and Reed do exactly the same thing. So with further ado, I would love to introduce you to Scott Pastel.
Thank you, Christy. I appreciate that introduction so much. And for those of you that are tuning in to our virtual seminar tonight, can see that it's Ugly Holiday Sweater Day here at Marshall Reddick. So I've got one of my many ugly holiday sweaters. I didn't win, but I was told that I was a close candidate. So close enough. My webcam says Marshall Reddick. I'm actually not Marshall Reddick. That's just the account we're using for our company. But as Christy said, my name's Scott Pastel, and it's great to have you folks joining us here today. As you can see from Christy's really detailed and just very in-depth introduction, there is a lot of experience here at Marshall Reddick. And Christy's right, as you can see on your slide, I'm actually almost at my 19th year. Next February will be my 19th year working at Marshall Reddick. I did start at 21 and I just turned 40 about 2 weeks ago. So I do own multiple investment properties, and honestly, as I'm sure you can tell, working for a company almost half my life, this company has completely shaped my life in just about every single way. And we're excited to meet you guys, and hopefully we have the opportunity to speak to you one-on-one, after this presentation. We'd love for you to just get insight from Christy, from people who all own investment properties. And as Christy has a large portfolio, I think if anybody can mute, or maybe Christy or Reed, or if you guys can just make sure you're muted. Thank you. That we all own investment properties. We all walk the walk. We have all not only purchased properties, but helped hundreds and hundreds of people do it too. So this presentation is kind of like a well-rounded overview of Marshall Reddick Real Estate. This is kind of like an intro to real estate investing and investing with Marshall Reddick, so that you guys have a good idea of what we are, what we do, where we're located, how we can impact each one of you in many different ways, and then how we cover pretty much all things residential real estate, from buying, selling, borrowing, lending, renting, managing. We cover all these different services, and we do it with both primary residence and investment properties. Of course, we're going to be focusing on investment properties here. So we'll get into a little bit more detail now. I'm going to share with you guys what we're going to talk about in this presentation. So mainly, we'll be covering and starting off with how to set your investment criteria. So how to know exactly which property classes, which property types, which price points, which conditions of properties, which ones fit your financial goals. Advisors like Christy help investors figure out what their financial goals are, and then connect that to property classes that will generate and create the financial goals they're looking for. We have the opportunity to kind of look at the whole United States. We're in 5 different states, and we'll share with you all of the markets we're located in, which you can also find out on our website. And we'll explain why we're in these markets, like San Antonio, Nashville, Cape Coral, Florida, Houston, Texas, Austin. We'll be going over the actually about 10 markets that we're located in. So we'll share with you why we chose those markets. We'll share with you our operations, our staff, our teams in those markets. But ultimately, we're going to start on how to set your investment criteria. Different states and different cities and different property classes offer different financial benefits. Some properties in some locations will see a lot more appreciation in value but won't offer positive cash flow. Some locations and some property classes will create mostly cash flow and maybe not have any appreciation in value. And then there's going to be a little bit of everything in between. Different property classes will create different tenant quality in terms of income, in terms of job stability, in terms of credit. Those different types of tenants will create different amounts of maintenance and vacancy on your rental properties. And all this goes into property classes. So I'm going to start with that. We'll be talking about due diligence on specific like metropolitan markets. Then we'll dive deeper from a 30,000-foot view into like neighborhoods, communities, where in these these major metropolitans does it make sense to invest? Because there's definitely certain areas of major cities that don't quite make sense for investors. And we'll be sharing exactly where our properties are located and showing you aerial maps. We're also going to go into a little bit of detail on our property management. We provide professional property management right now at about 2,700 units in the 5 states we're located in. Everything from single family condos, townhomes, all the way up to small, maybe about 15 to 20 unit apartment buildings. That's about where we cap out in size of a building. But we'll be explaining how our property management works, why it's so beneficial for our landlords to have professional management, and just, what Marsh Riddick does differently, why we're different than so many other property managers. I will be sharing, of course, all the locations. We're going to have Reed Hazard, who's with us here tonight with CMG Mortgage. He's been our preferred lender, Marshall Reddick's preferred lender for 19 years since he's been a loan officer. Reed owns 5 investment properties and his primary residence in different markets that we manage. We manage all of Reed's properties, Christy's properties, my properties, and then, of course, several thousand other clients of ours. So we'll be sharing Reed, who will be talking about lending. This will be a really informative part of the presentation. About halfway through, Reed will be going over financing, interest rates, talking about just the lending market right now and how we are able to get preferred interest rates, preferred incentives from sellers, how we're able to get rate buy downs, and basically how we're able to just get the best deals possible for our investors right now. And there's a lot of opportunity. So glad you guys joined us. So we're going to talk about where to begin as an investor. So this is really the start, and this is the roadmap for how advisors like Christy help investors define exactly why they're investing in real estate. And we start on the left and go clockwise all the way from why to who. And this is a step-by-step process. Some of this can be derived in one phone call or 2 conversations, maybe multiple conversations, but we do this in a very consultative with, obviously all of our consulting is free. We don't charge for the mentorship and consulting. Christy can make herself available to help you figure out why you're investing in real estate and what you're trying to achieve. So again, what does that goal look like, and how far do we want to take it, right? So we talk about property types, property classes. If we're looking for a certain amount of income to supplement your earned income, and just basically where you're at right now from a financial standpoint and what real estate can do for you. So we help you figure out what the goal is, what that specific measurable goal is for investing. Then we look at the options you have available. We open up this full, suite of options that exist. Anything from conventional financing to Marsh Riddick's in-house private financing. We are experts at 1031 exchanges, and we're doing them right now, and we're constantly doing a whole slew of exchanges at once. We've done just about every type of exchange possible. Cash purchase, are you using a retirement account? So we don't limit the conversation to just buying a home. We expand it as far as possible and help you make sure that you're, doing what I call ready, aim, fire, rather than fire, ready, aim, and just buying something and then realizing that you missed all these steps and important things to go through before you buy a property. So we help you figure out what options you have available, and then really just when realistically does it make sense? What does that time frame look like? Like, are you on a specific time frame? Where are you at in your capabilities, and ultimately, like, what you still need to learn to help you get to that point where you're ready to buy investment property? What type of property are you going to be purchasing? And that's where a lot of the conversation is held in terms of what types of properties make sense for you. We have the ability to open up all listings in every market we're in. We also have a lot of off-market listings. We have new construction, old properties, big properties, small properties, single story, two-story, just anything available. But it's what is that, like, what is your investor profile? What type of property does that lead to? And why would that property make sense for you instead of a different one? And that's exactly what we do. And you could say that we break this down into a science, which we're going to cover more detail on how we set criteria in a moment. Based on all these elements of your capabilities, the options, the time frame, what criteria makes sense for you, then we start looking into our markets of where and what locations offer the ability to create the goals and get the property that we're looking for. We're in a lot of different markets. So depending on why, how, when, what, that will tell us where we can open up, and we'll share with you where these properties are located. And then finally, introducing you to everybody involved. We have a full team from advisors to lenders to agents to property managers, and then all of our preferred vendors, title, escrow, home inspectors. So, the vendors in our property management, all that team comes together to make this possible. So when it comes to setting your criteria based on your financial goals, different price points, different property classes, different property types, even different conditions of properties will match based on your financial goals and your investment criteria. Even the age of a property and whether it's a two-story or one-story and square footage and where it's located within a community, all of these details go into how much cash flow, how much appreciation, how much maintenance, how much vacancy, and that ultimately is what we're going to cover a lot when we talk through property classes. So if you haven't read our property rating ebook, that's going to be one of the main things we're going to recommend to you is to download and read our property rating ebook. It's only about 38 pages. You can find it on our website. I'm going to share with you the link to download it. In the ebook, the next maybe 5 or 6 or 7 slides are taken right out of our ebook. So we have a property rating scale, and this was created about 8 or 9 years ago. This can be used in any major city in the country, and I'm going to share with you how to calculate property class in a minute. But first, I just want to explain like the concept. So every property in every city in every state of our country has a property class. The property class is based on the ratio of value to the median home price in that respective market. But what you can see on the property rating scale is higher property classes are higher purchase prices. On the right, lower property classes, lower purchase prices. That just means how high above or below the median home price is that property. Now, along with that is going to come more appreciation in value in higher property classes, but less potential cash flow. And then on the right, more potential cash flow, less appreciation. So it's a sliding scale. And then, of course, which is very important, we're going to talk about is tenant quality. We see, generally speaking, higher tenant quality in higher property classes, lower tenant quality in lower property classes. And I'm going to touch on what I mean by that. And that goes into credit, income, job stability, rental history, all of these elements that go into what we would say is a high quality or low quality tenant, collections, judgments, right? All these things we take into account. And we would say, that's a high quality tenant, low quality tenant. Well, first and foremost, based on your financial goals, which is the same as really just investing in the traditional asset classes, working with a financial advisor, they're going to ask you a lot of the same questions. When are you looking to retire? What's your experience in this type of investment? How much capital do you have? Are you working? How many dependents do you have? Like, we go through all this detail just like a financial advisor would, and that helps us define which property class fits your financial goals. And, real estate investing is a journey. Christy's been doing it for 25 years. I've been an investor for 15 or 16 years. Reed's been an investor for at least 10 years. This is a journey. And so, our property classes 10 years ago might be different than our property classes now because our life changes, our situation changes. And that's the beauty of real estate, is that it offers all these different types of financial benefits. So our goal is to help you figure out which one of those applies best to you guys. in the ebook, a really important part of it is this map of all of the major cities in the United States that came, and it's right on the National Association of Realtors website, and it's linked in the ebook. You could click this map, it takes you right to that website. We have downloaded all that data and created these nice charts on our website for the median home prices in every major metropolitan market over about the last 25 to 30 years. So we have the data on the year-over-year median home prices in every major metropolitan market going all the way back to the late 90s. And that data is essential. That data is what we use to calculate the property class. So if we go a little bit further here, this has been our property rating scale for the last 8 or 9 years since we created it. It's timeless because these are percentages of the median home price in that market. Of course, the median home price changes quarterly or yearly. So with that, we're able to continuously classify a property based on the percentage of value related to the median. So the top graph is for single family residences. Bottom graph is for multi-unit. And the percentages are percentages of the median single family home price. So now that we have that data and we're sharing it with you and we know exactly what the median home price is, it's very easy to calculate the property class. Very simple numbers. If most of our properties that we sell in our states of Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, most of the homes are about maybe 300,000 to 400,000. Some of them are maybe a little bit less than 300, some are a little bit more than 400, but I would say the average home prices in most of our markets that we target are about 300 to 400,000. The median home price in the United States of America is in the mid to upper 400,000. So the median home price in most of our markets is a little bit less than that. So we see most of them in the high 200s or $300,000 sale price. We're very targeted with the types of properties that we buy as investment. We don't use any of our own bias. We don't use any of our own emotion or opinion. It's just what is going to perform the best, right? So we know that if a median home price in one of our markets, like let's say San Antonio, is $300,000, and we have an investor that buys a $500,000 or $600,000 home, we know that there's a much smaller pool of renters for such a high-priced property, right? So although there are renters in these markets that are looking for properties in the $3,000, $4,000 a month, there's just a smaller amount of them, right? We also know that if we sell a 5-bedroom home, that's going to limit the amount of renters. It's also going to create, more wear and tear on the property. So we have a very specific type of property that we stick to when it comes to single family homes. All of the properties that we target are 3 to 4 bedroom, 2 to 3 bath, 2-car garage, single family detached home, typically on a 6,000 to 10,000 square foot lot. Most of the time, no pools, no playgrounds. And even the size of that property that we typically stick to is about maybe 1,400 square feet to maybe as much as 2,400. Most of the properties that we stick to are about 1,400 square feet to 2,400 square feet. Why is that? Well, we know that a much smaller home is going to be harder to rent out, and that a family might not be able to grow in that home because there's just not a lot of space. So we know that the majority of the rental market, the 80-90% of the rental market, is looking for a 3 to 4 bedroom home. We also know that type of property is more likely to attract a family. And now families are the one type of tenant that we all want. That is the only time, I guess you could say, that we're a little bit biased, if you will, to the type of tenant. That's it. If we can get a family, then we know they typically stay longer. They may have kids who end up growing up, and maybe they have kids that are enrolled in the local school district. Maybe they start with no kids, and they're able to have one kid and maybe even a second kid and live in that home for 5 to 10 years and grow their family in that home. Well, you can't do that in a 1-bedroom condo. Pretty hard to do in a 2-bedroom condo. You really can't do it if you don't have a 2-car garage, because where are you going to store all your stuff, right? So where this really works out well is when the tenant treats your house like their home, right? That's what we want. We want them to take good care of it. We want them to stay in it. We want them to be able to continue paying rent year over year as the rents increase over time. So we know that if we stick slightly below or slightly above the median, that we're going to hit that maximum chunk of the pie where we see the most amount of renters, so we get the most amount of interest, the least days on market, multiple applications, and that we have to do by picking the home first and working backwards. The graph under it at the bottom is for multi-unit. Since the median home price is based on a detached home, we adjust it slightly for duplexes, fourplexes, any type of apartment. So I want to make a really important point here. Here at Marshall Reddick, we avoid D-class and luxury class when it comes to buying investment properties. Now, you might own a property that was your primary and you convert it to a rental, and that might be a luxury class property. That's great. I fully support that. But when it comes to acquiring an investment property, we only focus on A, B, and C. And the reasons you might understand already, D-class properties, we have a very hard time qualifying renters based on credit, income, and we cannot change or adjust our tenant application requirements. Whether you make $500,000 a year or $20,000 a year, we have to use the same criteria. So it's very hard to qualify renters when you get down to that very low C and D class category. We also tend to see things like evictions, higher crime rates, lower school districts. So, we found that that's kind of like the no-fly zone, if you will. And then on the left-hand side, luxury class properties are great, but you'd have to put a significant down payment in order to get that property to cash flow. And for most investors, putting, 50, 60, 70% down just to break even is not really what we're looking for. So we want to stick with A, B, or C. This is a really helpful infographic put together by our property management team. And this just talks about a little bit of the demographics of what we see. Generally speaking, not 100% of the time, but you could say the majority of the time, this is the type of tenant that we see in different property classes. You have to understand that, for those of you that own rental properties, it's a long-term investment. Maybe you've owned your rental property for 5 years, 10 years, or maybe even more than 10 years. The average investor holds their property anywhere from about 10 to 15 years. So it's most likely that you're going to have a handful of renters during that period. Maybe one will stay for 3 years, and one stays for 2 years, and one stays for 1 year, and then one stays for 4 years. And we can't always guarantee that. We can definitely stick to properties and neighborhoods that will increase that tenancy, but we'll have a lot of different renters, or maybe not a lot, but we'll have a handful of renters typically if we own a property for 10, 15 years. So the majority of them are going to fall into probably the categories that we see on here. Now, the reason that we have their professions and what type of work or industry that most of them are in is because that actually impacts their rental stability, it impacts their maintenance, and it impacts their vacancy. And in higher property classes, let's say A-class properties, we often see dual income from multiple adults. So we might see multiple streams of income rather than one adult relying on like one source of income. We usually see multiple sources of income. We also see more white-collar employment, more job stability, more tenure at their company, and that usually translates into a longer tenancy, especially as we increase rents over time. We want tenants that can move into a property and withstand a 20%, 25% rent increase over a 5, 6, 7-year period. So, we're typically going to see that possibility more often in A-class properties. B-class renters are usually right around the median salary for that respective market. So median income earners, this is going to be anything from mid-level managers, young adults, seniors. It's kind of like everything in between. We see just people who are in that like median income class bracket. C-class is usually considered blue collar, hourly wage employment. We might not see the same level of job stability. Their employment could be a little bit more cyclical or seasonal. And therefore, we may not just see their income as stable. That could also lead to vacancy. What we also see in higher property classes is a higher percentage of renters who have owned property in the past. And with some of these renters in A-class properties, they're more conscientious about changing air filters, using hair catchers and shower drains, not flushing the wrong things down, the toilet. This is just what we experience more often in higher property classes. This is really just rule of thumb, what I'm telling you. This is just kind of like the trend. But that is definitely something that we see. If they've owned property in the past, in many cases, they have an ability and a not just ability, but a desire to take better care of that property. Now, what actually impacts property class? So as we go down the infographic, we look at things that matter. And we see things like price point, cost per square foot, school districts, and crime rates. So right off the bat, school district ratings, crime rates, that definitely impacts demand for people buying real estate in a particular area. And when we see higher crime rates and lower school district ratings, we often see a higher percentage of renters in that area, in that community. And, it's important for me to mention that properties that are in A-class neighborhoods are typically a higher percentage of owner-occupied homes in that area. Same thing as you go down, you tend to see less owner-occupied properties in neighborhoods with like C-class and especially D-class homes. So more pride of ownership. The other thing that we see more often in A-class properties is that they're in a homeowners association. It's very common that we'll see A-class properties that are in some type of HOA in many of our neighborhoods. And, those HOAs, they're actually great, especially if it's a single family home. If you're paying $300, $400, $500 a month in HOAs, then not fun. And that might not make sense for an investment. But when you're paying, $20, $30 a month in HOA dues, only so that the management company can enforce the CC&Rs and rules and regulations and keep that neighborhood looking spick and span, that really does help with the value of a property. We can manage your property, but we don't do community management. We don't do association management. But we know that there's a lot of HOA communities that are somewhat strict and maybe very strict about their rules and regulations. That's a really good thing for a landlord. And that's something that we want. We want to make people feel safe in their community, and we want people to feel happy, living in a specific community. HOAs would often help with that. So the price points and the cost per square foot is from the demand for people wanting to buy in a particular area. We've got a couple, we have a couple metrics there on school districts and crime rates and why demand would increase or decrease from people buying in a specific area. Now, things that don't matter very much for property classes are the age of the property, size of the property, condition of the property. It's really all about location. And even whether it's a single family or condo apartment, doesn't really affect property class as much as the location of that property in terms of those factors right above. And lastly, to remember property classes, A for appreciation, B has a combination of both, and C will provide more cash flow. These are percentages of the monthly rent. These are estimates. So right off the bat, it's very important to understand that these are estimated maintenance and vacancy expenses based on the property class, and these will be more and more true as the years go on. All right. I mean, you can't really look at a property you've owned for 2 months and, really base much off of that, right? You really got to look back on a 5-year, 10-year period and say, how much maintenance have I had over time? How much vacancy I had over time? So these are over a 15-year period, meaning, if you hold a property for 15 years, expect that over the course of time, 8% of the rent went to maintenance, 8% of the rent went to vacancy for A class, 10% for both for B class, 13% for both for C class. And we have great ways to keep that as low as possible through the types of properties we're buying and the property management and the leasing. All of that helps cut down on our maintenance and vacancy. But these are percentages that we include in the financial pro formas. And just to give you an idea of how the vacancy translates from that percentage, if you multiply those percentages by the number of days in a year, That's how many days we're reducing in our pro formas, in our projections, when we really want to look at the bottom line cash flow. Because we know it's not a matter of if it's going to be vacant, it's when. We know what types of properties and price points and neighborhoods that tend to have less vacancy, but we want to be conservative and know that, we build in these estimates and end up having less maintenance and vacancy. That's a good thing, but we need something to base it off of. And maintenance and vacancy have no bearing on the state that the property is located in, very little bearing on the city, and almost all of the bearing on the property class. So if you want to know how much maintenance and vacancy a property has, it's going to be based on the property class, not which city that property is located in. So if you haven't already read the Reddick Property Rating ebook, we want and have all of our clients read it. There's a tons of links in there, like that map, all the calculations I went over. It's not a prerequisite, but I think it's a very, very helpful start to investing in real estate. Even if you've been doing this for decades, even if you own a whole bunch of properties, this is not a book just for beginners. This is a book for every investor. It's safe to say that this is new information no matter who is reading it. We want to make sure you guys have that so you can download it for free on marshreddick.com/ebook. So as we move through the presentation here, we're going to start talking about which markets in the U.S. make sense to invest in. Although we might not agree on property classes and the financial goals that make sense, there definitely is a lot of logic to certain places in the country that make more sense for investors than others. And, we look at a lot of different factors. We look at job market, affordability rate, rental demand, the diversity of employment in a specific market, the housing affordability, the education, the access to colleges, universities, the population, and then obviously having reliable property management. It doesn't matter how great that property is. If you don't have property management, that box, I'll call it, doesn't really do much for you unless it's actually an investment vehicle, but it has to be constantly massaged, and professional property management is the way to do that. We've seen, investors who own properties on their own. Maybe they're using a different management company. Maybe they're self-managing it. We've seen the most incredible properties turn into such messes. And we've also seen properties that I think most of us would look at and go, that's kind of like a dull looking home and not very exciting. We have those properties that have turned into just cash cows and incredible financial investments for investors, where most of us might look at it and go like, there's nothing exciting to that property. So we've really seen it all, and the property will not perform without the right management. So these are some of the factors that we look at and why we're in Texas, Tennessee, Florida. Those states that we're in, we're obviously in California as well, where many of our investors live or used to live or vacation. We do sell investment properties here, very different type of model, usually multi-unit. When it comes to building a portfolio, which is really what we're here to help people do, maybe some of you will look in California. The barrier of entry is obviously very high. So for most of us, I'd say like the 95%, we look at these states of Texas, Tennessee, Florida, where median home prices, like I said, are in the 300,000, and we can expand in a portfolio and have diversity and have A-class properties, and have a whole handful of properties that will help us, create that financial stability that we're looking for. So this is the national footprint. We have physical offices in each one of these territories. So me and Reed are in our Orange County office. Chrissy is in Los Angeles. We have offices and teams in all of these locations. So we look at places like Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, where most of our investors are buying investment properties. But each of these locations is a little bit different. One thing they do all have in common is that they're all major metropolitan markets. They're all major metros with, anywhere from maybe just shy of 1 million up to 2 or 3 million people living in that greater metropolitan market. So we only stick to buying properties in major metropolitan markets. We have many investors that own property in 3 of these markets, 4 of these markets. We have many investors that own property in more than 4 of these markets. It doesn't start that way. Our advisors would help a client figure out which property makes sense as their first one, but the goal is to do this again and again and again as these assets perform for you, and as you build that trust and confidence in our team, and as you realize these returns, to say, you know what, maybe I'll do it again in a different market. So, we don't really preach owning like 10 properties in 10 different locations, but we also don't preach owning 10 properties in the same location. So we like to create an element of diversity, for all of our investors, which is why we're in so many of these markets. Now, behind the map are the people. These are photos that were taken in December of last year. These are different offices at Marshall Reddick, starting on the top right and going clockwise. The top right is our Newport Beach and Los Angeles team in front of our office on MacArthur Boulevard in Newport Beach, right by John Wayne. That's our administrative office. That's where we have like our accounting team, marketing team, software team, private lending team, and then property management and real estate. So big team there. And as we go down, bottom right, we're looking at our New Braunfels, Texas team. And all of our teams in Texas, Tennessee, Florida, they're all our service professionals, property managers, maintenance managers, leasing agents, realtors, tenant coordinators. So you're looking now on bottom right at our New Braunfels team. Then they're down at the bottom in the middle. That's in our Cape Coral, Florida office. Going down to the bottom left is our Clarksville, Tennessee team. And then on the top left is our San Antonio, Texas team. And, we love to have, clients visit these markets. A small percentage do. I would say probably 5 to 10%. But if you're ever looking to travel to these markets, we'd love to set that up, have you meet our team at the office. We'll have an agent tour you around. You're certainly welcome to do that. We make it possible so that no matter where you're living in the entire world, even if you're outside of the country, that we have the ability to help you take advantage of owning rental properties remotely through all of the technology and all of the service that we offer. We have landlords in about 20 different countries of the world that own property in those markets that I shared with you. So safe to say we have about just, every type of technology platform possible to connect with people all over the world. So at the top there is kind of piggybacking on what I said earlier. Not only are we in the major metropolitan markets, but we specifically target the suburbs of those major metropolitan markets. So we're looking at an aerial map of San Antonio on the left and Austin, Texas on the right, which are kind of connected with the I-35 freeway. They call this the I-35 corridor from San Antonio all the way up to Austin. In the Central Texas market, which is our biggest market, we manage about 1,500 properties. We have a staff of about 50 people from the real estate and property management department. But what I wanted to share with you is that if you really look at the downtown of San Antonio and the downtown of Austin, very few to if any properties. We have, if you're looking there, maybe 10 properties south of the 10 freeway in San Antonio, and maybe only one property, if maybe 1 or 2 properties in Austin in the inner city. We focus on the suburbs where we're more likelier to see the path of growth, better school districts, lower crime rates, and more families that want to live in these neighborhoods and make that their home and ideally stay for a long time. So, we found that we have better performance and better consistency and the quality of renters when we're in the suburbs. Property management is a big part. In fact, it really is the foundation at Marshall Reddick. We don't treat our property management as a profit center. Property management is designed to provide that service so that our clients have the comfort in buying and selling properties with Marshall Reddick. So we don't really treat it as a profit center. We have a very high percentage of employees that own property that we manage as well. We've got about 20 employees at Marshall Reddick that own properties in our different markets. And so, we're very big and believe in wearing our logo on our sleeve and actually walking the walk. So These are some of the fees. Basically, we don't charge a lot of fees that other property managers do. We're not a standalone property management business. We do manage properties that we didn't sell. So if you own property in any of the markets we're located in, we'd love to be able to be your property manager. Now, when people buy properties with us, they're obviously looking to use our management services, which are very competitive. We're not the cheapest property manager in the market. We're definitely not the most expensive. We try to provide the best service possible. And there's hundreds and hundreds of Yelp reviews, Google reviews, and Zillow reviews on our property management. So we can share with you in more detail how the fees work. Ultimately, this is just a summary of what we do. It's our job to protect your privacy and identity, so we are the face of that property. The tenant knows that they're renting from a business, not a private landlord. They also know that they're renting from a business that has hundreds of reviews, eviction attorneys, collections agencies, staff, software, contractors, and resources. They know that we're going to use the state lease agreement. We're going to use the most robust lease agreement that's available, which is the state of California, state of Texas, state of Tennessee, or state of Florida, or state of Kentucky lease agreement. We also add in all of the terms possible, the highest late fees, insufficient funds fees, notice posting fees, early termination fees, and all the additional fees that should come along with renting a property. We do all of the renovations, the repairs. If there are repairs, $400 or higher, we have to get approval from the landlord. No matter what the repair is, we don't make money from the repair or the maintenance. And I think that's the most essential part. I'm going to say it again in this presentation a little bit later, that we do not have markups and we're not actually the one profiting from maintenance and repairs. We use all third-party contractors, handyman, plumbers, electricians, roofers, house cleaners. They're all third-party. We don't see a penny of that. So these are our preferred vendors, meaning we've vetted them, we have their insurance, they've added us to their insurance, they're bonded, they're in good standing, and if they hold the licenses required. We've used them many, many, many times. We're very careful to manage those relationships. We also have multiple professionals in each area. So in North San Antonio, we have 5 plumbers. We need to have a lot of backups in case there's an emergency and one contractor is busy on one job, so we can get another to come in. Not only that, but we get multiple bids on things that are more than just a couple $100. So if we need to do new paint, new flooring, new appliances, we're going to be able to get you multiple bids from different vendors. We're not married to any one contractor.
Yeah, Scott, I just want
thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick. I just used I have a property out in Clarksville, Tennessee, outside of Nashville, and I just did a full remodel. I've owned the property since 2002, which I bought through Marshall Reddick, and I literally saved 50% using Marshall Reddick vendors, which that makes a huge difference. It would have cost me at least $45,000 to $50,000 to do a complete gut and rehab on my home in Clarksville, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I did the whole thing for $20,000, and I'm talking vinyl, wood flooring, appliances, walls, scraping the ceilings, new windows, new doors, everything. And that is such a huge benefit, because if you try to go at it on your own, it's very difficult. And the people, and I had 3 or 4 bids through Marshall Reddick, and I was able to look at each one apples to apples and pick one that was amazing. And I still, I'm able to use that person for anything that comes up additionally that I want to do.
Great. I know about that. I just want to make one point there. It's important to mention. It's important to mention. This is not a hobby. This is not like some part-time gig. This is our financial independence. This is our retirement. This is one of the most important things in our life. Using somebody that's not licensed, that says they can do the job cheaper, that comes along with massive liability, is not something that flies at Marshall Reddick. And, we've had and still have sometimes landlords that, say, I can find it cheaper. Well, so can we. Of course we can find it cheaper. Anybody out there with 2 arms and 2 legs, or maybe not even 2 arms and 2 legs, can get the job done, right? Now, that doesn't mean they're qualified. Just because somebody can do the job cheaper does not mean they're qualified. We have a renter in that home. We have laws. We're governed by these laws. We're not in the business of creating liability. We're in the business of reducing it as much as possible. So yes, we use licensed contractors when we need to. Yes, we use licensed plumbers when we need to. If we don't need to, we won't. We'll use a handyman. But know that we're getting the best pricing for the lowest liability with the most amount of track record, and the techs and the vendors that have that experience, that have that track record, that have the licensing, that warranty their work, so that if something happens, we can go back to them, and they carry insurance. We're not going to get that if we just pull somebody off the street that says, oh, I can paint this property. So just wanted to make that quick mention. And you guys can see other things that we do. There's many more to the property management. I really just want to stress that we've removed the conflict of interest that does exist with many other property managers who do repairs and maintenance in-house and profit from repairs and maintenance. That is not how we are structured. We're structured so that we only make money when the landlord makes money, and we don't make money when the landlord loses money. And that's the only way to have a evenly, symbiotic relationship and a fair relationship with a landlord and a property manager. So we don't charge a management fee when it's vacant, and we don't make money off of the repairs and maintenance. Now, I'm excited to bring you guys to the lending portion of our presentation. I hope you guys are getting a lot of value so far, and this is going to be a very good highlight of this presentation. We're excited to have Reed Hazard with CMG Mortgage. Reed is the branch manager of one of the most successful CMG Mortgages offices in the country. Out of, I'd say, over 50 offices, theirs is usually in the top 1 or top 2%. Reed has been a full-time loan officer for 19 years. Reed is an investor, just like Christy and myself. I hope you guys all get the opportunity to talk to both Reed and Christy after tonight. Reed is licensed in all of the states that we're located in. There's just no other lender like him. There really isn't. We have clients that have tried using and do use their own lenders. There just is no other lender like Reed and his team. Because their team is so successful, they have a lot of preferred programs, preferred pricing, and just benefits that we can translate to Marshall Reddick because of all of the business that we do with Reed and his team. So Reed's got a really good part here in this presentation, talking about the lending market. So I'm excited, and I'll let Reed take it away from here.
Thank you so much. So great to be here. I'm going to pull the mic over here. So great to be here, and thank you for all the kind words, and truly appreciate the partnership. So I actually did just buy a property in Orange County this year too. So even in this market, I've been looking constantly for opportunities, and so I think right now is actually a great opportunity to buy. So I have 6 investment properties now, and then I have my 1 primary residence. Marshall Reddick manages all of them. So 3 properties in Central Texas, 1 in Austin, 2 in San Antonio, and then 3 here in Orange County. So any of you guys that do have questions, really just from a non-biased source, as an investor, I'm always here just to talk to you guys also, not just to be your lender, but just to kind of give you guys my own experience and my own advice also. So I bought my first property when I was 19. As Scott said, I've literally been a part of Marshall Reddick since I started working. I was going to college when I started working here in the logistics department, and ended up getting a real estate license and becoming one of the lenders. So just have a true passion for what I do, and so happy to be here tonight. One other thing that I will mention is that my company is licensed in all 50 states. So as Scott said, I'm licensed in most of the states that I think are the best for investing in. But any of you guys that are, have a family or friend buying in a different market or need assistance, we're in all 50 states. So a little bit about what I'm going to cover tonight is, first of all, obviously getting pre-approved. Why do we get pre-approved instead of getting pre-qualified, and what is the difference? For some of you that are W-2 employees and you have no investment property and you've been at your job for a long time and have, let's say, $200,000 in the bank and you have perfect credit, Getting pre-approved might not be as important. For some of you guys, though, that have very complex files, that are self-employed, that have multiple rental properties, it starts to become more and more important over time. And really the reason why is because when you get pre-qualified, it's a loan officer taking your loan application, in some cases not even requesting your documents. Sometimes they do. They review that and then they give you a pre-qualification. When you get pre-approved, the loan is seen by an underwriter. We also run the loan through the automated underwriting system for where we're going to sell the loan. There's also no cost to get pre-qualified and no cost to get pre-approved. So when you're looking to start placing offers and you're serious and you want to buy, some point in, let's say, the next 4 months, get pre-approved. When you write an offer and you're pre-approved, we can close a deal in about 18 days. In fact, we just contracted on 3 deals over the last day that are in Central Texas that the buyers and the sellers within Marshall Reddick all want to close by the 28th. We're going to be able to make that happen. Those are clients that are already fully prepared. They're fully pre-approved. If you just want to see what the numbers look like and you're, let's say, getting prepared with Christy and you're planning on maybe buying in the next 6 months, and you just want to get some numbers, we don't even really need to run credit yet, right? We can take a look at your financials through a discussion and start putting things together. But once we want to get serious and actually start going out there and putting together a game plan with Christy and saying, hey, we're definitely going to be buying or we're going to be selling in the next 6 months and we want to do a 1031 exchange, we need to get you guys pre-approved. We do 1 credit pull. It's good for 4 months. And again, we don't continue to run credit. If you don't find a house within 4 months, we have all your documents on the side. We have your file ready to go. And we would just update pay stubs and update credit again when you're ready to start looking again. Most of you that are getting prepared, though, and that are looking to buy, 4 months is a very long runway, and it'll just get you fully prepared. So that's why we like to get you pre-approved. Again, there's no cost whether you do a consultation or you get pre-qualified or you get pre-approved. With me, getting you pre-approved is my insurance. You know, I don't want a deal to blow up halfway through the process. And I really can't even think of a time that that's happened. When I started doing a larger volume of loans, I put into place a system. And my system was I have a pre-underwriter, and that person is a actual underwriter that reviews your loan application and all your documents for me, puts together the file, and runs that automated approval through the online underwriting system. So that's my insurance. That's your insurance. It's totally free. And if you guys are looking to get pre-approved, this is the process. We complete a loan application. We'll get your documentation. If you're self-employed, you don't get a higher interest rate. It's just there's things like needing a year-to-date profit and loss sheet and a balance statement for your business and other things that are very intricate that I think that a lot of loan officers are so looking to get a deal in the door, they don't slow down enough to make sure that you're approved based on conventional guidelines. So again, whether you're a W-2 employee, you know, working for a large corporation, or you're self-employed, or you're just earning income off of your rental properties, getting pre-approved is your insurance and it's my insurance. So how do we get you qualified? I always like to go over this. When you're doing private financing, or when you're doing a debt service coverage ratio loan where we're only qualifying you off of the property's income, okay, it's a little bit different. We're not looking at your personal income. What is the conventional mortgage? That's what I mainly specialize in. It's the lowest interest rates and the lowest down payment requirements for buying a primary residence or an investment property. It's about what 95% of the public uses when they buy real estate. For this type of financing, you can buy up to 10 financed properties, okay? And so again, when we're looking at building a portfolio, we always want to see if you can qualify conventionally to start because it's going to have the best terms. So debt to income ratio, what's a good example of that? If I make $10,000 a month of W-2 income, if the home that I live in, whether I rent or I own, let's say that that payment is $4,000 a month. Then we look on your credit and you have a car payment for $500 and you have no credit card payments, or maybe you have a minimum credit card payment of $100 a month as minimum payment due. So that's $4,600. $4,600 divided into 10,000 would be a 46% debt to income ratio. For this type of loan, you can't go above 50% debt to income. So things that are not included in DTI are cell phone and utilities, basically anything that's not on your credit report, like health insurance, none of that's going to be included in DTI. It's what are the minimum payments on loans that are on your credit, and then obviously the home that you live in. As you acquire more real estate over time, we're going to look at your tax returns on your Schedule E. And based on what's on your Schedule E, we will be able to determine how much rental income we can give you towards the debt on that property. So this is why else I personally feel that professional property management, there's so many reasons why you want to use it. Another reason is you really want to make sure that you're claiming all of your rental income. If you're trying to build a portfolio over time, if you're not claiming all that rental income, if you're not getting a 1099 from the management company, making sure that that goes to your account, or if you do your own taxes, making sure that that income is on there, when you go to buy more property, it's going to be harder for you to qualify. If you make $1 million a year and you have, $10,000 a month in mortgages and you don't put all your income on there, not going to affect you as much. But for most of us, we definitely need to have that rental income on our Schedule E to continue helping that property to debt service so we can keep on building our portfolio. So this is how we qualify you, though, for conventional financing, this debt-to-income ratio. So once you've gotten pre-approved, we'll send you guys a generic approval letter. For example, if you're like, Reed, I have $250,000 that I want to use to buy real estate, what's the max that I can get? On average, our investors are putting 25 to 30% down. And so, for example, if you had $200,000, that'd be about $800,000 of purchase price. So we'll send a generic pre-approval letter. That will go to Christy, and basically we will, at that point, you guys will devise your plan. You'll start looking at different properties within our markets with our realtors. Christy can make those introductions. And then from there, once we find a property that we want to contract on, if it's a resale property, then we're going to update the address and the offer price on there. If it's with one of our preferred builders, Marsha Reddick is the listing agent and broker for quite a few builders out in Central Texas, Tennessee, and in Florida. And so in those situations, they always reach out. They want an updated approval letter. So we're very diligent. We're available on the weekends. We'll update this letter anytime for you. I like it to be date stamped within a week of the offer at all times, even the same day if we can. Sellers look at this. Sellers will take an offer that has an updated approval letter, a responsive lender, somebody that's gotten pre-approved. The realtor will ask for proof of funds so we can submit that offer with bank statements showing the assets. You can black out your account numbers, but that putting that offer together in that way is getting you the best deal guaranteed. And so the approval process, again, we always update the approval letter as we go, and that's what it looks like. So down payment requirements and the amount of finance properties, everything is based on FICO score as well. So the minimum FICO score, you all have 3 credit scores, TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. We go off the middle score between the 3. When you buy a property, it's your middle score. And over the past year, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac that purchased most of the loans that are being done like this, they're all being done with guidelines with the ability for a lender to sell loans to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But Fannie and Freddie are actually even buying most of these loans. They updated all of their credit score requirements over the past year. And so now credit is even more important. For many years, a 740 mid credit score got you the best interest rate pricing. So the best rate pricing was with 740 plus. There's now 740 to 759, 760 to 779, 780 to 799, and then 800 plus. So FICO definitely does affect loan pricing. You can have a middle credit score as low as 640. And if you're putting a 40% down payment and you happen to have, a 640 FICO, believe it or not, the rate pricing is still decent because at that point, the bigger down payment offsets the FICO a little bit. So down payment, credit score, all going to have a big difference in your loan pricing. Minimum down payment for buying an investment property is 15%. You will have negative cash flow. Okay. We want in this market you to put at least enough money down so that the property debt services, meaning after fixed expenses, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, any HOA, okay, and then obviously management fees too. If we can get a property to pay for itself at least off fixed expenses, then that's a good investment. Some of you may want to put enough money down to make sure that even any potential variable expenses are covered, like maintenance and vacancy over time. So all of that, again, in this market, we're really not seeing a whole lot with less than 25% down. So think of that when you're on the Marsha Reddick website. you'll see most of the properties default to 25%. But again, some of you may want to put less down. Minimum down is 15. Also, once you have 6 finance properties, for your 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th, you have to put 20% down as a minimum. But the 25% down for 2 to 4 units is the same regardless. Also, recently, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac now allow you to buy a 2-unit, 3-unit, or a 4-unit with as little as 5% down. I've been doing this almost 20 years, and it's even back in 2006 when you could fog a mirror and buy 10 properties with stated income, you were not allowed to put 5% down on a 4-unit. You now can buy a 4-unit with only 5% down, so pretty cool. When you do an investment property, though, always requires 25% down as a minimum for a 2 to 4 unit property. And as you guys can see here, once you have 6 finance properties for your 7th through 10th, it is a little more FICO score driven. You cannot qualify unless you have a 720 mid credit score. Okay, let's talk a little bit about interest rates. Okay, this is from the Freddie Mac website. It's interest rates from back in the late 60s until current. And as you guys can see here, going into the early 80s, interest rates hit 18% for a 30-year fixed mortgage. Back in the late 70s, you had an oil crisis and we had an oil shortage. Then you had the Yom Kippur War and OPEC shut off their oil reserves to the rest of the world. This caused hyperinflation. And at that time, the main energy source was oil. If the price of oil went up, the cost to produce all of your goods flew up. And as a result, oil went to $125 a barrel back then, which is pretty unbelievable. And it caused hyperinflation. And as a result, the Federal Reserve had to raise interest rates all the way above 20%. That was called the Volcker Act. They raised rates, though, and as you guys can see over time, it definitely slowed things down. When they raised rates back then, it slowed down production. And, again, you would think that it hurt the economy. It definitely did, but it slowed things down. And over time, interest rates started to come down. And then we got to, the COVID era. As you guys can see, I mean, literally 2.5%. We were writing 2.5% 30-year fixed mortgages. And then again, you can see the way that trend line looks. Last year in, I think it was October of 2022 is when we had the highest rates of 2022. And then again, we peaked in October of this year. So kind of the same setup that you saw happen back in the early 80s. We're seeing the same thing. The Fed raised rates to a point that was very restrictive, 5.5% on the Fed fund rate. And as a result, it's been bringing down inflation. We got the annual inflation number today. Consumer price inflation annualized was 3.1%. Now, it was 7.5% the same time last year. So the federal rate hikes going to 5.5% and then holding them there longer, okay, has started to bring down growth quite a bit. It's not at the Fed's target yet, though. The Fed wants to see 2%. We're still at 3.1. And wage inflation is actually still closer to 4%. They want to see wage inflation back towards 2 also. So I don't think we're probably going to see any more rate hikes. The Fed's going to announce if they're going to hike in December this week, actually. I'm pretty sure that they're not going to hike. But they've had a mantra of higher for longer. In September, they came out and said higher for longer. They didn't raise rates, but higher for longer is what pushed rates up to 8%. And that did slow things down. So I'm going to show you on my next slide a screenshot of actual mortgage-backed securities. So when I fund a loan, a $400,000 loan, a $300,000 loan, an $800,000 loan, and it's a conventional mortgage, those loans are packaged together and they're sold in the secondary market, okay? They're sold as a security. And so essentially, they're bought and sold every day. What you're looking at is the Fannie Mae 6% coupon. It's the most actively traded mortgage-backed security in relation to the loans that I'm talking about, the national loan that pretty much everybody gets. So every one of these little lines is Monday through Friday. It trades just like the stock market. Green, when this goes up, is actually investors buying it more than selling the bond. That causes the bond to appreciate, drives down the yield, and makes rates better. So this first highlight on the far left is actually June to July of last year when we thought inflation had peaked. So rates actually, I remember at the top of that peak right there, right at the beginning of July, rates actually hit 4.875 again. And then from there, we started to see that inflation was very sticky and that it hadn't peaked, and it actually accelerated again going in through summer. So rates had to get worse. The second highlight is October of last year when we hit 7% mortgage rates. As a result, it really slowed down growth. And that third highlight is actually on November 10th or 11th, I believe, when consumer price inflation finally peaked. That's the report that today is 3.1% annual. Back then it showed, okay, we actually had a negative 0.1 reading. So the market believed that we peaked, rates got a lot better, and they ebbed and flowed and they improved into the end of the year. Then you can see in January, through the end of January, that next highlight, the fourth one over, is on February 1st. We had lower rates in January because the economy always tends to cool in December. Okay, we had a lot of weather issues last year also. There was less spending, less home purchasing, less buying of product. Even though you have Christmas, it doesn't matter. The weather really slows things down, less transportation. So as a result, in January, when we got December data that showed a cool down, the market cheered it, and we got better rates in through January. But what happened this last year that was not expected was inflation resurgence. Spending in the economy was stronger than expected. Wages were stronger than expected. There was a lot of COVID cash still left over. Economy is very strong right now regardless. We have a very good jobs market. But again, this past year, the inflation resurgence, stronger than expected. Moving in through March, that's the reason why rates got quite a bit worse. The Fed said, hey, you know what? We might not be done with rate hikes. We're going to have to hike more. And all year long, you can see, inflation was getting better, but the rates every month or two hit a new high for the year, right? Not as high as the prior year, that's 7%, but they hit a new high. Then you get into September. Why did mortgage rates hit 8%? Because the Fed didn't hike rates anymore, but what they said is they're going to keep their federal fund rate for 2024. They're going to keep it at an average of 5.1. Before that meeting, it was 4.6. They said in 2025, it's going to be 3.9. Prior to that meeting, it was 3.4. So it was a higher for longer. And so capital markets adjusted to that. And interest rates went to 8%. But then the same exact setup as last year. The higher rates in October really cooled down the boat. And as a result, when we got November inflation data for October, it showed that in October, things slowed down and inflation cooled more and wage inflation cooled more. And in fact, the cost to bring on new employment for employers was much lower than expected. The Fed wants to kill inflation right now. They want next year it to be about the election. Okay, they're going to have to refinance somewhere around $6.5 trillion of their own debt in 2 years. They cannot afford for inflation to be high. They cannot afford for interest rates to be as high as they are. Okay, they need inflation to come down. And so they've been using all of their tools, right? Keeping the Fed fund rate high, selling a lot of their debt into the market instead of buying it back. That's called quantitative tightening. We've heard about quantitative tightening. They're going to stop doing that eventually and start doing quantitative easing again. Okay, but so again, they're using all their tools to slow down growth. Now, where are we at today? As you can see that highlight the far right, interest rates have improved quite a bit, back towards those exact levels we had around September, okay? But they're not amazing again yet. The average primary home rate today, 7%. Average investment rate, about 7.5%. So we have created some amazing products with Marshall Reddick, okay, as our partner. And on some of the building projects that we have within Marshall Reddick, we've been able to get rate buy downs on the back of the transaction, not the front, the back of the transaction. What that means is the builder is paying a very large portion of points to be able to have an interest rate that we can offer that's much lower than the market. We have a 4.75 and a 5.25 interest rate available on some of our products. So I would urge you to talk to Christy about that. You can talk to me about that. And so why we've done that is because really these builders, they want to sell their product and do end of the year closeout sales. They've sold a lot of their properties this year. They might have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 left in each community. They want to sell those properties. Okay, you always slow down moving into the end of the year. This is always how it's been. This year, though, in particular, the Fed being high longer and really just the news and all the things out there right now scaring people is causing us to get these opportunities that are phenomenal. You guys can see that purple line on the top, that's the 200-day moving average. We are now trading above that, meaning that the direction of money is changing. We have not been above the 200-day moving average since the Fed started hiking rates. We've not been there. We're now there. So what I believe next year, you're going to see inflation resurgence in the new year. There's going to be some of it. The Fed's going to be tough a little still. They might even put one more rate hike on their dot plot for maybe March, even though they're probably not going to hike, just to keep us all on our toes. But you can clearly see that the direction of money is changing. And next year, you're probably not going to have as strong of inflation resurgence as we had this year. And that will allow the Fed to back off. And at some point late in the year, start to even look at potentially cutting interest rates. So probably going to have 6 to 7% rates next year, probably done with 8% rates, right? And so between now and some point next year is going to be a great opportunity to pick up property at a good price. And then we will again be able to refinance at some point in the future when rates come down. Or you can buy right now with special financing that we have available on some of our products. I want to show this graph real quick just to show you 30-year fixed rates do follow inflation. So as inflation does come down, you will see the Fed pivot and you will see interest rates come down, and eventually they'll even be cutting their Fed fund rate. I don't know if it's next year, it could be the year after, but inflation is coming down, make no mistake. And at some point, as rates come down a lot and we still have a strong jobs market, what are we going to see with prices? They're going to start going up again. Another thing, what do we do if we buy today with a high rate? CMG is offering a rate rebound program. We cover your lender fees. We cover $1,000 of title and escrow. We cover your appraisal. Here's an actual breakdown of it. So if you look to the far right, you'll see the fees that we're waiving. It's for any point in the next 5 years. We're going to waive the appraisal, the processing, the underwriting, the flood cert, the credit report, the origination fee, $1,000 of title and escrow. I've already put together a package with Grant Marple at Atlas, who's our preferred title and escrow company. They do title and escrow in-house, okay? They have the cheapest fee structure out there. We'll basically be able to do a no-cost refinance for you. And this is for any client, any loan amount size. $100,000 loan, free refinance. So, and at any point in the next 5 years. So again, you guys, I just think it's a tremendous opportunity right now to identify a deal. I think resale properties in San Antonio right now, Central Texas, great opportunity. And again, that's something that you guys will want to dig in more with Christy and with our realtors on. But this is just a great, great program, and I think a great incentive to buy. That's my information, and I've had a really fun time here tonight. And thank you, Scott, as always, for having me. And I'm going to let Scott now finish the presentation.
Yeah. And Reed, I mean, you've obviously spoken on hundreds of our webinars and events for 20 years. I always love watching you speak, and it's always really informative. Even somebody that talks to you regularly like myself, I always get great updates watching that. So I hope you guys really got some takeaways from that and just a better sense of how the market's doing and you know, how these factors impact rates and where we're at right now, and obviously working with the best lender in the industry. So thank you, Reed. Really appreciate it. So we got maybe about 5 minutes left. So it looks like I appreciate you guys staying on. Little bit past time, but maybe about 5 minutes left. We want to share with you guys some of these charts that I was talking about earlier of that 25-year year-over-year median home price history. To just give you an idea, also this illustrates why we're in some of these markets. You know, to see a market like San Antonio that has not dropped in 25 years, didn't drop in value during the Great Recession when a lot of places in the country dropped 40, 50, some even more than 50% value in that 2008 to like 2010 period. San Antonio was one of the few that weathered the storm. And what that basically means is a very safe market to invest in. San Antonio in itself is in the small bracket of metropolitan markets that did not drop during the Great Recession. And why is that? It's really a market that's dependent on the economy, on the job market. People move to San Antonio because of the job ability, you know, the offering of more employment, because of the job growth, because of the affordability, because of good quality of life. So thankfully, it has great home affordability, where we finished last year with a median home price of $337,000. So these graphs are on our website. Christy could also point you to where they're located. Now we want to get an idea of what example investment properties there are. So this is a very, very popular investment product in Marshall-Reddick. We work with multiple builders. We're working with about 4 or 5 builders that build new construction duplexes. There's very high demand for these properties in the Central Texas market. I don't really see these in a lot of other places in the country. There's these like single-story and two-story, almost, basically single-family homes with one common wall. And I really just call these single-family homes on one parcel or one lot because they really are. These are about 1,400 square feet per side. Each side of the duplex is a full 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, private backyard with a fence around the perimeter and a divider in the middle. They come with stainless steel appliances. The builder knows that, 90% of the buyers are investors. The ones that aren't, live in one side and rent the other. So these come with a refrigerator, which is great. We have worked with this particular builder now for about 6 years. We have sold properties in about a dozen different developments. This is one of our favorites in New Braunfels. New Braunfels is a very good area for high school district ratings. They have a huge medical industry. We tend to see more white-collar employment in New Braunfels. New Braunfels is right outside, pretty much just right on the outskirts of San Antonio, in between San Antonio and Austin. It's considered to be like a future metropolitan market of its own because it's absorbing so much growth between San Antonio and Austin, which are only about an hour and a half apart. So here's New Braunfels, a pretty strong population in itself. And these duplexes in New Braunfels are $545,000. We have duplexes in a few different communities that range from about the mid 400s to about mid 500. New Braunfels is considered like one of the best communities with the highest rents. So on these duplexes in New Braunfels, we're seeing total rents of about $3,200, so about $1,600 per side is what these are bringing in on each side of the duplex. Let's go back. And they're new construction, builder warranty, everything interior for 1 year, 10-year structural warranty. And the incentives that we've been getting from this builder in just the last few months have been incredible. They're doing what Reed can go into more detail on, which is a forward commitment, which allows us to get a rate buy down. This particular property actually was a special. It's kind of like an end of year special. They're doing a significant rate buy down to get a loan at 4.75. It's a massive rate buy down. I mean, that's obviously from about 7% down to 4.75 in some cases in the 5. Because of a large rate buy down and a unique program with our lender that allows us to get a seller to pay more than 2% of sale price for that rate buy down. We got a few different options. There's a 10-year ARM. There's a 30-year fixed interest rate loan. Reed is the lender. He's actually the builder's preferred lender. We manage hundreds of these duplexes. It's great property, creates, a nice blend of like cash flow and appreciation. And with very high occupancy on these, we tend to see tenants stay for pretty long. So we did this based on a 30% down estimate, just a projection here, 30% down with taxes, insurance. We also provide the first year of free property management on these, so just great incentives. Make these positive cash flow, even at today's rates of what we're able to get. And we've only been just seeing rents over time, growing in these markets. So it's a great investment, very very little maintenance, good tenant quality because these are A class, and you kind of get the best of both worlds with single family and multifamily kind of combined. Now, Florida, because it's coastal, it's Sun Belt, kind of resembles like Las Vegas, Phoenix, California, a lot of those Sun Belt states that a lot of people retire to or vacation to, saw a lot of overbuilding and then a big drop in 2008. It's had a very steady comeback. Fort Myers is like a smaller major metropolitan market, not as big as Tampa or Orlando. It's on the southwest side of Florida, so it's tucked in there. Right below Tampa and right above Naples is Fort Myers. And Fort Myers and Cape Coral are both part of that metropolitan. This is a market that we've been selling properties in for many, many, many years. We manage about 500 properties. We have a full staff there. What's great about Florida here, and especially with targeting new construction, is very low taxes. We have actually pretty reasonable insurance because we sell and stick to mostly new construction. So we're able to get insurance on properties, and even pretty affordable insurance on a lot of these properties as well. New construction and the way that properties are built now in Florida, up to the hurricane standards that were created in 2003, building codes change. We're able to get, much better insurance. Obviously, we're also able to attract better tenant quality, get lower maintenance. So the cash flow and appreciation is strong in this market. And, I want to share with you examples. So in this market, we're also selling a combination of single family and multifamily. We've recently come across these duplexes that we're working with the builder on, and they're providing us, again, with a huge rate buy down. We're able to get rates in the 5% on these, creating massive cash flow. These have, roughly $1,000 a month positive cash flow, which is just unheard of. That's with also a 30% down example. You can go lower. We still recommend around 30% in this market to get, cash flow and, just a little bit more reserve in there. But, about $1,000 a month after principal, just tax insurance, is phenomenal. And we manage several of these. We've sold many of them. They actually they rent for about $2,100 to as much as about $2,300 per side. So we're seeing a property for $550 that brings in about $4,200 a month in rent, new construction, good tenant quality. These are also 3-bed, 2-bath per side. So we see longer tenancy. I mean, we blend all of these things we're looking for into one property, which is why I'm excited to share this property with you guys tonight. We have several of these duplexes in Lehigh Acres and Fort Myers, which Christy can connect with you on further. Clarksville is another one of our markets that's very, very stable growth. It's also one of our most affordable markets. The median home price in Clarksville at the end of last year was just in the mid 200s. A lot of the properties we sell are in the high 200s, low 300s. Also very low taxes, low insurance. This is a basically new construction. It was built last year. What's great about this market is we have new construction properties that are rented in this market. The builder that we work with is holding on to several properties that he built last year that are rented, that are performing, that he's selling one by one right now to investors in our company, and also providing up to $15,000 worth of seller credits. We're using that for rate buy downs, free property management, even the first leasing fee waived. So you see on here some things that are in that yellow color because these have 1-year free property management and free first leasing fee. This property is actually rented already. Renter just moved in several months ago. They're on a lease till next year. This property is about $350,000, A-class, 4-bed, 3-bath, great property, 1,800 square feet, right in the middle of the type of properties we look for. Already rented for $2,250 a month and providing just about $300 or just under $300 a month of positive cash flow with the rate buy down that we're able to get from this builder. So you see a common trend here. We're able to get preferred interest rates and just great incentives now in this market. We're really focusing a lot on new construction because not only is that better for the investor, that's also in a lot of demand for the renter. So I appreciate you guys staying. We're about wrapped up here. I just kind of wanted to finish on coming through to our market data. If you guys want to download a market data packet on any of our markets, you can do that on marshallreddick.com/market data. We have about 20, 25-page market data packets on all of the markets we're located in. A great financial calculator that Christy can share with you, and a one-stop shop. Everybody all working together has worked through thousands of transactions together, a team that communicates and just really prides ourselves on the impact that we have on so many people. These are just a few tidbits we kind of covered here tonight. What makes us unique is that we do real estate and property management. We target properties that you only have to use your money when you acquire it. And the growth in cash flow and the low maintenance and vacancy allow for these properties to sustain themselves and pay for that maintenance and vacancy over time. And just a few other tidbits that we have on here for you guys today. So we like to kind of end this presentation with how we reduce vacancy, maintenance, what we do about property values fluctuating and natural disasters. We're in markets that
major metropolitan markets with a big tenant pool. Higher property classes will give you lower vacancy. Having professional property management will definitely provide lower vacancy for dozens and dozens of reasons. Maintenance, right? We get home inspections. We figure out the condition of a property. We know the age and condition of all the appliances and all the major components in that property. Higher property classes will give us lower maintenance, and obviously brand new or newer construction properties will as well. We do recommend at least 20 to 30% down. Obviously, most of the properties range in that $300,000 to $500,000 range, so very high affordable markets. We're very detailed in the insurance and making sure that our clients have enough liability coverage and have loss of use riders and other things that are important to have in your insurance policy. And at the end of the day, this is exactly what we want our clients to look like after they buy property with Marshall Reddick, not just a week later, but 10 years later, due to the continued communication and performance of that property. That was me after I bought one of my rental properties many years ago, and I still own this property. It has about tripled in value. In value, it's about doubled in rent. I've used it as a cash out refinance several years ago. Still cash flow positive. This is one of several rental properties that I own. Each one of them that I acquired, I felt like I was a lot more, just focused and knew exactly the process and felt a lot more confident in my decisions. And thankfully, I have utilized the help of, our advisors, more than just about anybody. So you guys have you'll have this recording sent to you. It'll be on our website, marshallreddick.com/learn. You'll also find hundreds of videos, articles, guides, ebooks, calculators, all on our website, marshallreddick.com/learn. All of our education is free. We want to put it out there so that the most amount of people can utilize it as possible. And finally, ending with Christy Dietz. Christy, we're really appreciative. It's awesome to have you on the team. I'm excited for you to connect with our clients that are on our webinar tonight. And folks, you guys can email Christy at christy.dietz@marshallreddick.com to set up a phone call. Very casual. It could be as long or as short as you want. You can ask as many or as little questions as you want. Christy will kind of guide you and ask you questions to help you figure out what your next steps are, what track to be on. You can also schedule a consultation on our website, marshallreddick.com/consultation. I want to thank Reed. I want to thank Christy. I want to thank Austin and Christian, who are also here helping us conduct the presentation, and all of you tonight that have joined us. I hope you guys got a lot of information here tonight. We hope that after tonight, you guys download the ebook, set up a call with Christy, connect with Reed on financing, go on our website, watch some videos. There's so much that we have available for you guys, and we're just really appreciative of your time. So thank you again, Christy. Thank you, Reed. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yep.
And happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Look forward to talking to all of you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.